What up, nerds? I'm back for the second installment of Diaries of a New DM. And I did change the angle so you didn't have to worry about that crazy window over there. Instead, I replaced it with this light right here. So less of a super bright window, more of a nice soft glow of a beer lamp bottle light thing. Again, the goal of this video series is to tell you guys, like, I am a brand new DM, and not only that, I am brand new to Dungeons and Dragons. Kind of already know a little bit about what's what, but a lot of the game mechanics, like dexterity check, or give me a intelligence check, or acrobatics, knowledge, arcana, strength, athletics. Some of those things I really don't know. I'm not fluent in that language yet, especially as a DM. But I have an awesome group of guys that 2 out of the 4 guys are seasoned veterans. I mean, they know pretty much, they know all the basics and then some about how the game works. So they've been super cool with me as the DM. I'd take a second and say, hey, how does this work? And they'll say, actually, so because we were over here and I was doing this, then it would be an investigation check, would probably be more appropriate rather than a perception check. Okay, so that's been super helpful. But yeah, to talk about what happened this past Saturday, first of all, I feel like it went really well. And I had a couple guys text me later after the fact, and they said, hey, great game. Hey, we had a good time. Stuff like that. So I know people enjoyed themselves, and honestly, right now, that's all I can really hope for. As a new DM, that's my main goal. I want people to just have fun. Of course, I have all these crazy ideas for a cool, intricate campaign and plot twists and stuff like that. But bottom line is, as long as people are having fun, I'm happy with it. On to the side quest, though. To talk about what happened, let's see. So everything went well. Let me see here. Let me look through my notes. Let's see here. Let's see. Where does it start? First of all, first thing, next game, I'm going to print things off better. Somehow what happened was I had page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4 of notes. That was super dumb. So right off the bat, I was like, wait, I gotta, hold on, and it's really, like I said, I have a super understanding group. It wasn't a huge deal, but just for the sake of time and, I don't want to say immersion, but my immersion. Still, though, I feel like it would play out a little bit better if I would print things off correctly. One of the things I wanted to print off was a map of the Sword Coast, and then where I made a little town of my own. It's called Brim, and it's to the kind of the southeast of Daggerford. They're at the kind of like the entrance to the Delimber Vale. I think I'm saying that correctly. Delimber. I'm not sure. I don't know. Anyways, I have a little town called Brim down there that they stopped at, and that's where session 1 really took place. And it moved right along. I tried not to railroad my players too much, but when they arrived in town, they were being threatened by a dark elf from Daggerford that was trying to requisition supplies from the town, which Brim is a farming community that helps supply Daggerford with livestock and grain and stuff like that. But at the moment, Daggerford they got a new lord of the city, and the lord is trying to requisition more supplies, and not really giving Brim anything in return. So they're short on staff for their town guard. They don't really have much money to speak of. They're not getting adequate payment from it or support from Daggerford. And then on top of that, when the party arrives in town, they find out that livestock is being taken by onesies and twosies every night or so. And so not only are they trying to struggle to keep up with Daggerford's demands under their new lord, but also they're having some unknown being that's stealing their livestock at night. I kind of railroaded them into, they're obviously, it's obviously coming from the forest. One of the cool things that happened, though, to kind of tell you what's to come, and then we'll Tarantino back, and I'll tell you kind of how it went. The livestock was getting stolen by a phase spider. So the phase spider was kind of like moving in and out of, the ethereal plane or whatever, and it would pop in, grab something, and then disappear and take it back with it. But what happened was our company's druid decided he wanted to turn into a pig, which allowed it. I'm not sure all the rules of like what he's allowed to turn into or not. But his idea was to turn into a pig so he could, catch whatever it is that was stealing the livestock. But what happened was he turned into the pig and had the phase spider come in and captured him, like took him back. I kind of had to do a little bit of ad-libbing there, so the druid was not just sitting at the table for the whole session waiting for the party to rescue him. In the middle of the session, I had the rest of the party went outside and took a break. And I told the druid, I told our party's druid, I told him, I was like, all right, so you wake up in a cave, you're kind of groggy, it's really dark, it smells terrible, and then you realize you're upside down, you're hanging upside down, and then you realize you can't move, and and then you realize you're wrapped in spider silk. And so, and I had him, he used some sort of flame hands, something to burn the silk away, and he dropped down, but unfortunately, he didn't get out in time because the phase spider has web sense. It sensed that he was out of his little cocoon. So I had him do a stealth check, or a perception or stealth check, something like that. And he failed it, so he got stuck again by the phase spider and got put right back up in it. But it at least gave him something to do, so he wasn't just sitting at the table the whole time waiting for the party to get him. I also had a side quest. There's a half-elf couple in town, and their names are Liren and Ruik. And Ruik is a woodworker, and he likes to go out into the forest and spend a few days gathering wood and mushrooms. He needs wood for his woodworking, but he also likes mushrooms because, So Liren approaches the party before they go into the forest to find our druid friend. He says, hey, my husband normally goes out into the forest for 2 or 3 days maybe, but it's been 6 nights and he hasn't come back. Kind of the classic, bring me my husband back alive or bring me proof of his demise. So what was really cool, what I thought was cool, was I set a timer on my phone, and I didn't tell him what it was for, but I set a timer on my phone and just set it on the table for 15 minutes. Some people might argue that when you set a timer, you should tell your players what the timer is for. And it may be kind of a cheap shot to set a timer and not tell them what it's for. But there's 2 reasons why I didn't tell them what that timer was set for. They already knew the quest, the side quest to find Ruik, Liren's husband. They already knew that was something that they would need to do while they're still in the forest. I decided not to set a timer because, one, I had terrain set up in the forest, terrain that I had built, which has been another awesome part of this hobby for me. Is I've been really diving headlong into making dungeon tiles and terrain pieces and stuff. So I made this little terrain piece, and it's like a little campsite. The party had asked Liren, what direction does he go in the forest? Where does he like to hang out? And I told them, he usually has a permanent little campsite that he sets up. That one of his favorite spots is out there by the stream, and got a fancy little, dealio that I've made there, and then with some stew that was left burning over the fire. So that was on the table, so they could see that already when they first entered the forest. I feel like if I would have told them, you have 15 minutes to find Ruik before he dies, they would have known right away, hey, we're going to go straight to that campsite and find him. And it would almost, I feel like it might have been pointless to even set a timer. So what happened was they entered the forest. They had an encounter in the middle of the forest with 3 giant spiders, which I nerfed quite a bit. Because the giant spiders, I can't remember their challenge rating, but for the party of 3, because the druid was captured, I didn't want them to have a major struggle before the major struggle. So I nerfed the spiders quite a bit. They had like 10 hit points. Their armor class was like 12. They were squishy spiders, which if you're playing video games, you know, a lot of times giant spiders, you know, in a lot of games, I think Dragon Age or something, you know, you hit them with a couple spells and then squash them, you know, with a sword or something, you know, something like that. I believe they were led to think that the timer was for the druid. So they were like, we need to go get him right now, you know, so they went, I had a cave set up and they went into the cave. Long story short, they rescued the druid. His name is Droglar. They rescued Droglar and fought the phase spider, which they actually handled with great ease. I did not nerf the phase spider, but they took care of it almost before the first round of turns was even up. So 3 additional phase spiders, or giant spiders, and then the phase spider, and they took care of that. And because that was so easy for them, I decided that on their way back out of the cave, goblins in the area had heard all the ruckus and were coming to check it out and see if they could scavenge anything from the fight. And they were hanging out at the entrance of the cave, and they were surprised to see people coming out of the cave because they're not really used to people going in and coming back out alive. So they were kind of hoping to go in and pick over the bones and hopefully get some loot. At that point, the timer for Ruik had definitely expired. My initial idea was there was going to be a little encounter at the campsite with a few spiders or something, and then if they beat the timer, they would see him wrapped up in silk. Not only would he be alive and they would get more of a reward for bringing him back alive, then they could take him and he would actually be an NPC to help them fight the phase spider until they deliver him safely back to his wife and his woodworking shop. But alas, they did not reach him in time, and rightfully so. They went and rescued the druid first because he was definitely captured. It was an immediate danger, and they didn't really have any prior information about Ruik other than he was gone longer than he normally was. By the time they got over there and they searched the little campsite that I had, they found Ruik. They found his corpse wrapped up in silk, but they found his ring, which was a beautifully carved ring that had 2 oaks carved into the face, is what I said. Now, one thing that I want to know about that, I had the ring prepared. Like, I knew that was part of the story, that was part of the side quest, was they'll find his ring, and I forgot to pick out any magical properties for that ring. The idea would be they would find the ring and it would do something for them or have some sort of magical property that they could either use to go fight the phase spider and help them on this quest, and then bring it back to Ruik's wife Liren, and maybe she'll give it to them, you know, as just a token of her goodwill for, you know, going and searching for her husband. Or, you know, she would want it back as a memento. I haven't really decided yet, but regardless, I totally forgot to give that ring any kind of magical property, which I really intended on doing. I have a note here that just says plants. Oh, okay, so we've also incorporated some of the veteran dudes, you know, they've put together some rules for alchemy. I don't know if herbalism is already a part of D&D or not. I don't know. There's a lot that I need to learn. But alchemy and whatnot is something that we wanted to include in the game. After we rescued our druid, we were in the forest, and he said, I want to look around for plants that I might be able to use. I was sitting there trying to think of, well, I would love to give him something. I mean, he's in a forest. Obviously, he's going to find some plants. I was like, you know, at the time, I was like, I don't know what to tell him, because I don't know what kind of plants would be out there that would have magical properties or anything. So I'm sitting there racking my brain like really fast, and I was like, you don't see anything out of the ordinary, just, you know, some grass and weeds, underbrush. I'm just sitting there trying to think, like, what plants have magical properties, and are they in the D&D realm? Like, it was like Deathroot, or Nirnroot, Wolf's Bane, Deathbell, I think was that one of them? Razorgrain. I'm thinking of Skyrim quite a bit. I don't know. I don't remember. But I didn't know if they were in the D&D world, and if so, what they would do, you know, all that kind of stuff. The one thing I did do, though, for them was, upon killing the phase spider, they looted the area, which had, you know, remains of bodies and stuff. And spiders don't really care about taking gems or gold or anything off of them. They just want to drain the blood of their corpses, whatever spiders eat, right? And then they just kind of discard the remains. So I had them find some pretty good stuff. I had them find a ruby, which I looked up really quick on Roll20, what a ruby is worth, and it said like 5,000 gold pieces, but don't tell them. I told them it was worth 1,500 because they're level 2 right now, and they were like, oh my gosh, like that's awesome. So they were really excited to find something worth so much. One major thing, every DM in every video that I have watched on DM tips, they all say, hey, keep a list of NPCs, just random NPCs, maybe build some stats out for some of them, and then, but for a lot of them, just at least have some names and like an occupation, physical description or something, if they have any accents, just have those on standby, because inevitably the party will want to talk to more people than you had planned. And immediately, man, they got to the town, and they immediately wanted to talk to the leader of the town guard to see what was going on with the livestock being stolen. That never crossed my mind, and I didn't have anything prepared. I was like, his name's Bjorn. I just threw it out there. His name's Bjorn, and it was fairly late at night, but you can probably find him, over at the entrance to the town, or at the guard post, to the north or the south, or whatever. But I did not heed that advice yet. It hadn't crossed my mind to get a list together, a list of unassigned NPCs. So that is one thing I am for certain going to make sure I have on hand for the next session. That's pretty much everything that I have. So the major things that I'm relearning after watching those videos and all the helpful DM tips and tricks, and then experiencing for myself, is, again, have a list of unassigned NPCs ready, which I didn't have, and I suffered for it. And then just getting to know, kind of reading through, getting to know what is in my now I am the DM. I can create magical plants and I can tell them but I would rather right now have that stuff kind of laid out for me. I am not building an entire world with its own set of flora and fauna, if you will. I am using what is in the Forgotten Realms for the most part, and then of course I made up the town named Brim, but other than that, the attributes of that world are what I'm using. And I'm really looking forward to getting back at it this Saturday. The last thing that happened was they rescued the druid friend, brought him back into the party. They found a Ruik's body with his ring, and so as they were heading back to town, they exited the forest. As they were approaching town, that town was a little far off, they saw in the distance torches on the horizon, a lot of torches on the horizon, and they had a green flash, kind of a green flash from the town in the distance, and then they're hearing faint cries of terror in the distance and panic. They're going to be returning to the village to a scene. Those are the things that I learned from this week, and things that I'm looking forward to trying out next week. Thank you guys for watching the video. Of course, if you liked it, consider subscribing to the channel. Absolutely destroy that like button. I'll see you guys next week.